There's something about winter that feels off. Maybe it's the silence, the way heavy snow swallows every sound, turning the world into something quiet, almost too quiet. Or maybe it's how the darkness comes earlier, stretching the night longer than it should be. In the winter, everything slows down. Fewer people outside, fewer witnesses, and sometimes fewer chances to escape when something goes wrong. Most people think of winter as peaceful, snow-covered mountains, frozen lakes, cozy nights indoors. But the truth is, some of the most disturbing things don't happen in the chaos of summer. They happen in the stillness, when no one is around to hear you. Tonight, I'm going to share 3 true winter horror stories. Stories that didn't just leave people shaken. They stayed with them for years. Stories about isolation, about being watched, and about how quickly a normal moment can turn into something you never forget. So if you're alone, maybe turn the lights on, because these stories might make you feel like you're not. This happened when I was 8 years old. My parents owned a small vacation cabin in the mountains. It wasn't anything fancy, just an old wooden house surrounded by trees, sitting at the end of a quiet road that barely anyone used during the winter. The place had been in our family for years. It creaked constantly, the pipes made weird noises, and the wind always found its way through the walls somehow. But to me and my older brother, it was the best place in the world, especially when it snowed. And that weekend, it wasn't just snowing, it was a full-on blizzard. The kind where the sky turns completely white and you can't tell where the ground ends and the air begins. Snow piled up so fast it swallowed fences, buried cars, and erased paths within minutes. Of course, none of that mattered to us. We just saw it as the perfect opportunity to play. That afternoon, my brother and I bundled up in layers, so many that I could barely move my arms properly, and went outside to play a game we had made up ourselves. It was kind of like capture the flag, but in the snow. We each built our own base using snow walls, then made a giant snowball to act as the objective. The goal was simple: sneak into the other person's base, steal the snowball, and bring it back without getting hit. We had played it dozens of times before, but this time, something felt different. My brother decided to build his base on the neighboring property. That wasn't unusual. The house next door was almost always empty. We'd rarely ever seen anyone there, even during holidays. It had this quiet, abandoned feeling, but in a harmless way. At least, that's what we thought. He ran off down the road to set up his base while I stayed back like we always did, waiting for him to signal that the game had started. Usually he'd blow a whistle once he was ready. So I waited and waited and waited. After about 5 minutes, I started to feel a little annoyed. After 10, it turned into something else. The wind had picked up and the snowfall was getting heavier. It muffled everything. The world felt quieter than it should have been. Too quiet. I told myself I probably just couldn't hear the whistle over the storm. So instead of waiting any longer, I decided to go toward his base. I had 2 options: cut through the woods or take the road. Even at that age, I knew going through the woods during a blizzard wasn't a great idea. The trees were dense, the ground uneven, and visibility was terrible. So I stuck to the road. Each step was heavy. Snow reached almost to my knees, and the wind kept pushing against me like it didn't want me to move forward. By the time I reached the neighboring property, something immediately felt wrong. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the normal quiet you get in the snow, but a deeper kind. Like everything had stopped. I looked toward where my brother should have been. His base was there, perfectly built. The snow walls were standing, the big snowball was in place, but he wasn't. Not behind the wall, not nearby, not anywhere. I remember calling his name, once, twice, no response. That's when I decided to just grab the snowball and win the game. I stepped closer to the fort, and that's when I heard it. "Hey, are you looking for your brother?" The voice came from the house. I turned, and there she was, an older woman standing in the doorway. At first glance, nothing about her seemed obviously wrong. She looked normal, but something about her expression made my stomach drop instantly. She was smiling, Not a friendly smile, not a warm smile. Just a still, unmoving smile that didn't match her eyes. I told her we were just playing a game. She tilted her head slightly, then said, "Your brother isn't out here." That didn't make sense. I had just seen his footprints leading up to the house, and that's when I noticed something else. Another set of footprints. They led from the trees, straight to the front door, and then they doubled back, like someone had walked in and then been turned around. I looked up again, and for just a second, I saw movement in the upstairs window. Someone was there, watching. Only part of their face was visible. The rest was hidden in shadow, but I could tell they were looking directly at me. I froze, completely. The woman noticed where I was looking, and slowly, she raised her hand and motioned for me to come inside. "Come in," she said softly. "It's too cold out there." Every instinct I had told me something was wrong. I didn't know why. I didn't understand it, but I felt it. Instead of moving closer, I shouted my brother's name as loud as I could. The woman's smile disappeared instantly. For the first time, her face changed, and I swear, she looked annoyed. Then I heard something from inside the house. Heavy footsteps, upstairs, moving fast, coming toward the stairs. That was it. I turned and ran. I didn't look back, not once. I just ran as fast as I could through the snow, following my own footprints back toward the road. My legs felt heavy, my chest burned, and I could barely breathe through the cold air. And then I heard something that snapped me out of it. A whistle. My dad's whistle, the one he used to call us back home. I ran toward it, and when I reached our driveway, my dad and my brother were already there. My brother looked confused. He said someone at that house had tried to get him to come inside too. That's when everything clicked. We told our dad everything, every detail, the woman, the man upstairs, the footprints. He didn't say much, just told us to go inside. But I saw him grab something before he left. He walked down toward that house alone, and he was gone for a long time. When he came back, his face looked different, serious, quiet. He told us the front door was locked. No answer, no movement inside. Later, another neighbor called the actual owners of that house, and what they said still doesn't make sense. They weren't there. They hadn't been there all week. No one was supposed to be in that house. The police came. They checked everything. Nothing. No sign of forced entry. No footprints leading away. No one inside. Just an empty house. After that, we never played on that property again, not even in the summer. But the part that still bothers me the most isn't the house. It's the way that woman looked at me when I didn't come inside, like I had just ruined something. And I still think about this sometimes, because if I hadn't run, or if I had just listened, I don't think I'd be here telling this story. I've been skiing for most of my life. My parents met through skiing competitions, so growing up, winters basically meant one thing: mountains, snow, and long days on the slopes. By the time this story happened, I was 21, a senior in college, and this was supposed to be just another normal trip. There were 4 of us: me, Jaden, Amir, and Ryland. We planned a weekend trip to a massive ski resort up north, one of those places with multiple peaks, dozens of trails, and lifts running in every direction. The kind of place where you could ski all day and still not see everything. The first day was perfect. Fresh snow, clear skies, barely any crowds. We spent hours hitting harder and harder runs, pushing ourselves, racing each other down slopes like we always did. By the second day, we were exhausted, but also not ready to leave. You know that feeling when you realize something's ending and you try to squeeze every last bit out of it? That was us. It was late afternoon, maybe an hour before the lifts closed. We were at the top of one of the higher peaks, just standing there, talking about which run to end the day with. That's when they showed up. 2 girls. They walked over like it was nothing. Confident, relaxed, like they had been there all day watching people. I'm not exaggerating when I say they stood out immediately. Not just because they were attractive, but because something about them didn't quite fit. No helmets. Light gear, not dressed like people who had been skiing hard all day. They introduced themselves casually, started making conversation like we had known each other for hours. At first it felt normal. People meet on the slopes all the time. You talk, maybe ride a lift together, maybe do a run or two. No big deal. But then the conversation shifted. They started asking very specific questions. What trails we liked, where we had been, if we had tried anything off-map. That last part stuck with me. Off-map. One of them, Devin I think, mentioned a trail called Devil's Forest. Said it was a hidden glade trail, not marked on the official map, but way better than anything else on the mountain. Now we loved glade skiing. Skiing through trees, tighter lines, more technical. So naturally, that got our attention. Jaden was the first to question it. He said something like, "If it's not on the map, how do you even get there?" The girls just smiled, said they'd show us. That should have been the moment we said no. But we didn't. Partly because we were curious, partly because we were young and stupid, and partly because Amir and Ryland were already completely on board. So we followed them. At first, everything seemed normal. We skied down a short run, then cut off toward a less crowded area of the mountain. Eventually, we reached a point where the snow looked untouched. No tracks, no signs, no other people. Then they told us to take our skis off. "We have to walk a bit," one of them said. That was the second red flag. You don't usually walk uphill to reach a trail, especially not at a major resort. But again, we ignored it. We started hiking, slowly moving up through the trees, carrying our skis. The deeper we went, the quieter it got. Too quiet. No lift sounds, no voices, no wind even. Just silence. That's when Jaden leaned toward me and said, "This doesn't feel right." I nodded, because I felt it too. But by then, we were already in too deep. Eventually, the terrain leveled out, and ahead of us we saw it, a slope leading down through the forest. "This is it," they said. Amir and Ryland didn't hesitate. They clipped in and started heading down immediately. Jaden looked at me, like, do we really want to do this? But we didn't want to split up, so we followed. The run itself was actually good, fast, challenging, tight turns between trees. But something was wrong. Because when we reached the bottom, there was no lift, no trail markers, no signs, nothing, just more forest in every direction. I asked where the lift was. They said it was close. That's when things started to fall apart. Ryland suddenly collapsed, just dropped into the snow like his body gave out. At first we thought he slipped, but then Amir went down too, and Jaden took one step forward and collapsed the same way. That's when I realized something was seriously wrong. My head started to feel off, light, dizzy, and suddenly everything made sense. The drinks. Earlier, the girls had offered us alcohol from their own bottle. Everyone else drank. I barely did. That's why I was still conscious. I looked up at them, and they weren't pretending anymore. They were just standing there, watching, waiting, like they expected me to drop too. One of them said quietly, "He didn't drink enough." That's when I knew this wasn't random. This was planned. I tried to stand, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. My body felt heavy, numb, but I forced myself to stay awake. After a moment, they turned away, started moving, and that's when I saw it. Through the trees, in the distance, a van, parked on what looked like a service road. The side door slid open, and 4 men stepped out, big, silent, waiting. That's when survival instinct kicked in. I didn't think. I just moved. I turned and stumbled back toward my friends, shook Jaden as hard as I could, threw snow on his face, yelled at him to wake up. After what felt like forever, he did, barely conscious, but awake enough. We couldn't carry everyone. We couldn't fight anyone. We couldn't do anything except wait. So we stayed there, terrified, listening, expecting those men to come through the trees at any second. But they didn't. Eventually, Amir and Ryland woke up too, confused, disoriented. We got up, and we walked. For what felt like hours. It was dark by the time we found a real trail again, and even longer before we made it back to the car. We reported everything. Police, resort staff, everyone, but nothing came of it. No suspects, no arrests, no explanation. To this day, we don't know who those girls were, or what would have happened if I had taken one more sip from that bottle. Every winter, my friends and I had this tradition. Nothing planned, nothing official, just something we did, because it felt different. There's a frozen lake about 20 minutes outside our town, surrounded by thin woods, no houses, no streetlights, no reason for anyone to really be there at night. And for some reason, we loved going there. If you've never stood on a frozen lake during snowfall, it's hard to explain. It's not just quiet, it's wrong quiet. The snow absorbs everything. Your footsteps sound distant. Your voice feels muted. Even the wind doesn't feel like it belongs. It's like the world gets stripped down to nothing, and you're left standing in it. That night, the snow was heavy, big flakes falling fast enough to blur the horizon. You couldn't see very far, maybe 40 to 50 meters at most. Beyond that, it just faded into white. It was past midnight, no one around, just us. Kyle parked the truck near the trees like always. The engine cut off, and instantly it went silent. That kind of silence where your ears almost ring. Before stepping onto the lake, Kyle did what he always did. Picked up a rock, threw it out ahead of us. We all watched. It hit the ice with a solid, dull crack. No break, no fracture, still safe. So we stepped onto the ice. At first, it felt normal. We stayed close to each other, walking slowly, boots crunching lightly against the snow-covered surface. Then we stopped, about 30, maybe 40 meters out. Far enough that the shoreline felt distant, far enough that if something happened, we wouldn't get back instantly. We started talking, random things, stuff I can't even remember now. But I do remember the exact moment it all changed, because we all stopped talking at the same time. No one said wait. No one pointed. We just knew. There was something out there. Movement. Across the lake. Near the tree line on the opposite side. At first, it was barely visible, just a darker shape in the snow. Ricky whispered, "Do you see that?" Kyle nodded. None of us moved. The shape shifted, slowly, dragging itself forward. At first, we thought it was an animal. A deer, maybe a bear, something big. But then, it moved wrong. Not like an animal, not fluid, not natural. It was uneven, heavy, like something pretending to move the way it should. And then, it stepped out further into the open and stood up, fully upright. That's when the fear hit. Because it wasn't an animal, it was a person wearing something, some kind of thick dark suit, bulky, misshapen. For a second, I actually thought it was a bear suit, but then I noticed something worse. It wasn't just the person. They were dragging something behind them, a rope, tied to something small, a bag. It scraped along the snow as they moved, leaving a thin line behind it. And even from that distance, something about it felt wrong. We didn't speak. We didn't move. We just watched. The person reached the edge of the lake and stopped. For a moment, they just stood there. Then slowly, they reached up and started pulling the suit off. It came off in sections, heavy, awkward, until they were just a person, standing alone in the middle of nowhere. And somehow, that made it worse. Because now it wasn't confusion anymore. It wasn't, "What is that?" It was, "Why are they here?" They bent down, picked something up, a rock, and then they started hitting the ice, hard, again and again. Each impact echoed across the lake, low, heavy, almost hollow. I swear, I could feel it through my boots. And that's when it hit me. They weren't just breaking the ice. They were trying to make a hole for the bag. My chest tightened instantly. Ricky grabbed my arm. Not hard, just enough, like he didn't want to say it out loud. Kyle whispered, "We need to go, now." But even then, we didn't run. We just backed away, slowly, carefully, trying not to make noise, step by step. And that's when everything went wrong. "Hey." The voice cut through the silence like a crack. Sharp, loud, too close. We froze, every muscle locked. I didn't turn around. None of us did, but we knew. They had seen us, and in that moment, something changed. The situation stopped being something we were watching and became something we were part of. That's when we ran. No hesitation, no thinking, just ran across the ice. back toward the trees. Every step felt like it might break beneath us. Every sound felt too loud. I kept expecting to hear footsteps behind us, or that voice again, closer. But I didn't look back. I couldn't. We reached the shoreline and pushed through the trees, branches snapping against our jackets. Yeah. By the time we got to the truck, my lungs were burning. My legs felt like they might give out. We got in, locked the doors immediately, and just sat there. None of us spoke. We just stared out at the lake, waiting for movement, for something to come out of the trees. But nothing did. After a minute, maybe two, Kyle started the engine, and we left. The whole drive back. No one wanted to say it out loud, but we were all thinking the same thing. That bag, a few days later, I saw something on the news. A missing child from a nearby area, last seen just days before, near woods, near water. I'm not saying it was connected. I don't know that, but I've never gone back to that lake. And sometimes, when it's snowing and everything gets quiet again, I think about that night, about that sound, and about how close we were to something we were never meant to see. Winter has a way of making everything feel calm, quiet, almost safe. But as you've just heard, that silence can hide things. Things that watch from a distance, things that wait for the right moment, and sometimes, people who are far more dangerous than anything you'd expect to find out there. What makes these stories unsettling isn't just what happened, it's how easily they could have ended differently. One wrong decision, one step closer, one moment of hesitation, and none of these people would have made it out. So next time you find yourself somewhere quiet, somewhere isolated, somewhere that feels just a little too still, trust that feeling, because sometimes your instincts notice things long before your mind does. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more true horror stories every week. And let me know in the comments, which story disturbed you the most? Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.